And hello to you out there. My name is Rachel Baribeau. I am the host of Sunday Soul. I am so excited to be with you today on this Sunday. And I want to tell you a little bit about the show, a little bit why I do what I do before we bring on our amazing guest. And wow, the story she's going to be able to tell you. I do this show one because I want to find out the story behind the story. Having been a journalist for so many years, a host for so many years, I love finding out what makes people tick. I love finding inspirational people that are just crushing it in so many ways, people that hate to lose, as you'll hear our next guest say. And why are they the way that they are? What keeps them going? And the reason why I decided to do this on a Sunday was because of the fact that outside of quarantine in our normal lives on Sunday, a lot of times we're reflecting on our week, what we need to do, how to prepare for the week, all of those things. And I wanted to give you some goodness, some soul, all of those, the inspiration and ways that you can prepare yourself for your week ahead on Sunday, right? And so right now I want to welcome in, so excited, Sabrina Ionescu. Hi, Sabrina, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I am good. I am so excited to have you on. Just so thrilled to talk to you and talk a little bit more about who you are, what makes you tick. And I talked about in the intro for just a moment, one of the things that I heard you say in an interview, and I think you said, I just hate to lose. I just hate to lose. How old were you when you first remembered thinking, I just hate to lose?
I think it's always been like that. I know at a young age, just starting to compete and play sports and be around my brothers, that's when it really started. And then I've never really looked back since then. It's always been like that.
All right. So, and a lot of people have also asked me right now, I've got questions later on for you from some listeners and from people that were really, really, really excited about this interview this week. What are you doing staying busy and staying motivated during this quarantine?
Yeah. I mean, I'm still doing everything that I normally was doing, obviously a little bit different, but waking up decently early, trying to get on top of things and working out. Obviously it's been a little different. I'm kind of in the yard, lifting my mom's pots, finding different things to lift and try and do, doing a lot of yoga, doing a lot of things outside just to stay in shape and really just staying mentally prepared. I know that it's kind of a hard time, but I'm not really letting that kind of change my mentality and outlook on things. So if that's going on a run or trying to find ways to just stay physically ready, and then trying to find basketball hoops, whether it's going to the park or finding private gyms that I'm able to get into and just kind of get some shots up.
One of the things we talk about in my movement, I'm changing the narrative, is knowing what works for you and running with that. And I found during this quarantine, when it first started, Sabrina, I remember there was one night where I literally read every terrible thing, like every horrific thing that could possibly happen to us. I read it, right? And I worked myself up into a total anxiety attack. And since then, I've learned I just don't read the news. Like I usually don't click on it. If I click on it, I'll back up out of it and not read it. What have you found out about yourself throughout this time, just the past couple of weeks and ever how long this lasts? What works for you and what doesn't work for you, Sabrina?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the same way. I don't like to read it, and I figure that if it's something important enough, I'm gonna somehow find out what I need to take, whether it's stay in the house or a lockdown or whatnot. Somehow that information is gonna get to me, and so I definitely don't need to be looking at the news, and it's been so negative. And I think a really positive way is looking at athletes and people that have a platform, their social media outlets, they're doing something, whether it's working out or finding ways to read or do something productive. And I think that's been really beneficial to be able to see how many people are actually using this time to grow instead of just kind of being complacent with the fact that we can't leave the house and we're advised not to. And obviously the more people that listen to these kind of precautions, the quicker it'll be that we're able to go back to normal life. But for now, just kind of finding a new norm.
Have you felt obligated or encouraged, or have you felt that desire to use your platform to tell people to stay home and to social distance? Because so many people, young people, old people, look to what has been that message that you've been putting out there during this time to other people?
Yeah, I've tried to kind of stay away from exactly what people should be doing and shouldn't be doing, because I think, professionals are able to do that. But I've posted videos working out at home and reading, and I think I need to start doing more of that. Obviously, I'm still in school right now. School started on Monday in my last term, my last quarter of school. So just trying to stay productive and on top of things, but definitely still trying to use my platform as influential to kind of get people to understand that this isn't a time to just kind of sit back and let life pass you. It's still a time to grow.
Sabrina, you said something earlier that I thought was absolutely fantastic. And you talked about coming out the other side of this. And last week, I made this video, this short little punchy video. And I just said, I remember a couple of years ago that I was driving between sporting events and it was late at night. And I'd changed the channel from football. I've been listening to football all day. And I just happened to change the channel. And I was listening to this therapist, and it was a call-in show. And the guy was asking, what decision should I make? And she said, make the decision that 20 years from now you'll be proud of. And so I thought about that, Sabrina, and I thought about if that's the case 20 years from now, I want to look back. If I'm writing the book of my life right now, I want to look back during this time, during this quarantine, and say, yeah, I was honest with myself about the way I feel. I was honest with, and we'll talk about a little bit what was lost, what didn't happen, right? But at the same time, I want to come out of this better. I want to come out of this faster, stronger, more understanding of myself, loving myself more with a new skill. I want to be smarter. And so I think that's really awesome that you talk about that idea and that mindset to come out of this better.
Definitely. And I think the first few days, I was reading, everyone was talking about how bored they are and how weird everything is, and how, they're not having fun. They can't do certain things. But we're still allowed to leave. There's still so many things that we are able to do, and that, we shouldn't take that for granted. There's so many things that we've put off in our lives because we said we're too busy, or we said we don't have time. And it's like, now time is all that we do have. And now it's a time to catch up on readings, catch up on anything that you weren't able to do previously. And so that's something I'm trying to do. I'm trying to read more. And obviously it's hard, you can wake up at any time of the day, you can really do anything you want. And so just trying to be disciplined and mentally strong enough to be able to kind of have a set schedule and use that to the best of your ability.
So let's talk a little bit about what I mentioned a moment ago and what was lost. The things that were on the table for you, for your teammates, for the things that were on the table for so many athletes across the country. How do you deal with that? Because if it's not sports, there's people that are watching here that'll say, it may not be sports, but man, I was supposed to close the deal. Man, I was supposed to get married. Man, I was supposed to go on the trip. How have you dealt with that, Sabrina?
Yeah, it's really hard to wrap your mind around something like that. Today we were supposed to be competing for a national championship, and that's something that, got taken away from us. And that was something that we worked so hard for, but there's beauty in the process. And so from the first day of the season, it wasn't that long-term goal of, we need to get to a national championship. We need to win these particular games. It was really trying to perfect the day and trying to perfect everything that you do within that day. And then things happen as they should happen. And so obviously this is something out of our control and something that we can't control. And so that's something that I try and work on, and not really focus on the things I can't control and focus on those that I can. And something that I can't control is how I take on every single day and how I take on every single challenge. And so obviously not being able to play anymore in sports, and like you said, everyone's life is kind of on pause, so to say, with things that they had planned, whether it was getting married or getting a new job or going to law school or doing something. But there's so much that you can do in the now that you can control that shouldn't impact an uncontrollable.
What did you do to celebrate with your family, with who you are, the Naismith honor this weekend?
Absolutely nothing. they're working. My parents are working. They're doing what they normally do. I got a congrats, love you, and that's about it. But the draft is approaching in 2 weeks, so we might get together and do something for that.
Where does it come from? I said this to you a couple of weeks ago, or excuse me, a couple of days ago when we first started talking through this interview. The ability that you have just to remain humble, to remain grounded, where it just feels like these honors and these things, they seem, you take them in, but you seem, you're just so very humble. And where does that come from, Sabrina?
You know, I think from a young age, I've always been like that. And I think it's just been the hunger to want to be better and do better and never really be satisfied. And so I think kind of having that mentality has helped me and has kind of grown me into the person that I am, but then also realizing that it's always bigger than me and it's always bigger than the sport I play. And it's those around me, it's my teammates, it's everything that can be done alone. And so I do realize that all these trophies and all these accolades and whatnot can't be won alone. And it really takes a village, and it takes a people that are a lot greater than I am. And it's the sum of its parts. And so for that, I'm forever grateful for them and everyone that makes this possible.
Sabrina, will you walk us through the viewers that are going to be watching this live or later on? Will you walk us through the day and the time when you met Kobe and Gianna?
Yeah, met them. We played at USC last year, and we had talked a few times before that, but they had come to the game. He had come with Gianna and 2 or 3 of her other teammates, and so they sat courtside to our game, and then were able to come in to the locker room after and share some words and talk to us and the team, and then our relationship just went up from there.
Do you remember what you were thinking the first time you met him? Do you at all get starstruck? Do you at all?
I for sure was starstruck. I mean, he came into the gym about 43 minutes before the game had started. And so we were still warming up and there wasn't a lot of people in the crowd. So it was really cool to be able to see how early he got there. But just the presence around him. I mean, I started shaking, sweating. I started, getting ready for the game at a whole new level.
And you work really well under pressure. One of your family members, you call it Godfidence instead of confidence. You work really, really well under pressure. Where did that come from? Was that these kind of backyard brawls that you had with your twin Eddie, or where did that come from?
Yeah, I mean, I put more pressure on myself than I think anyone does, or any outside noise. And obviously I have faith. And so that's really all I need. And I know that, he watches over me and he has all the control. And so I never really let outside noise or pressure kind of derail where I'm at. But I do love kind of just that adrenaline rush of having pressure and feeling the need to try and be great and conquer that moment.
What role, we've had a number of people call in, or tell me this week, I say call in, I was a talk show host for many years. So that's just my go-to line. Like in a moment, I'm going to say 888-573-5325. I was on Sirius, so I'll be answering phones over here in a minute. Okay. I've had a number of people ask me this week, what role does your faith play in what you do? Because I remember early on in my career, I had an agent tell me, you really need to tone down your faith. You really need to, hide that, draw that back in. And I just said to him, thank you, but no, thank you. I don't. And he said, it's going to keep you from getting a job. And I said, there's no job that I want.
Exactly.
If I have to deny my father. So I would ask you, Sabrina, what role does faith play in every part of your life?
I mean, it's everything. And I think early on when I was younger, and I do think I tried to hide it a little bit more. I was always religious growing up. And I think, early on I was kind of uncertain with how people would view me if I was or wasn't. And I mean, now going to college and learning all the ups and downs and fighting adversity, I really needed that in my life in order to be able to stay positive and really stay sane. And obviously now through all the tragedy that I've gone through this year, that was my backbone. And that's that's kind of what that faith has really put me through, and really what I relied on tremendously. And so that's something that I'm never going to give up, and really makes me the person that I am. But I mean, all glory goes to him, and he kind of has that control, and that gives me peace as an athlete and as a person.
Sabrina, I've known loss very deep as well, and I've lost my mom, my dad, my adopted grandfather, my grandmother, a couple of dogs, all within the last 5-6 years. So I understand deep and profound loss. I also understand beauty can come from ashes, and I understand that sometimes in the greatest hurt, you can really figure out who you are. You can learn to be more appreciative of others and the love you have in your life, and so many lessons. But I'm curious about maybe some of the lessons that you've learned through your own grief.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it was something that I had never expected to happen, and especially in a year that was supposed to be so great for us and for me. And coming back for my senior year was so exciting, and I didn't really see anything derailing me or my team of the greatness that we were going to be able to achieve. And going through that tragedy this year, it really didn't. Obviously, it hurt us and it hurt me, but it never broke us. And so I relied on them more than I think I ever have, and I trusted them through the ups and downs and through the games where I couldn't think straight and I couldn't warm up. And that forever is going to hold a special place in my heart. And that really makes me it really made me realize and think about how much I view these people, not just as athletes or teammates that kind of know. And that relationship and that foundation is what a team is built on. And that really is what made us so special. It wasn't necessarily the points we were scoring or the rebounds. And so on a team aspect and scale, it showed me that. And then also, I think just as an individual, it showed me how strong I've been able to be in overcoming this situation. And obviously my family for supporting me. But I mean, it's an ongoing battle. It's something that you never really get over, and you just try and find ways to deal with it and take the good with the bad and keep going.
If I might ask you an incredibly personal question, I feel my people around from time to time. I feel them sometimes, and I know they're there. And there was even one time recently where I felt like a heavenly hug. I felt like I was getting a heavenly hug from my mom. But she was with me. So I wonder if there's been any moment in which you felt Kobe or Gianna around you.
For sure. I mean, there's been a lot of times. There's been a lot of kind of like God winks, I would say. Like I'll sit in a seat that's 24. I'll look up in the sky and there's a purple and yellow sunset. There's just been so many kind of funny little like winks that I've gotten that I've been like, oh, he's right there, or yep, I hear you, or I see you. And then obviously going to sleep at night and hearing his voice, hearing his laugh, hearing her laugh. It's always kind of you wake up really sad, but then you think like, oh, that was him, talking to me, and that's what I needed to hear.
You are such a role model. I wanted to say for female athletes, right? Like you're a role model for athletes, period. You look atop that triple-double, NCAA record, and there you are, right? And I'm curious in, when Gianna maybe was going to come up and play college ball and have her own career. What do you envision for female athletes, particularly in basketball, or just as a whole? What's your hope? What's your desire? What had you hoped for her and for others?
Yeah, I mean, we were paving the way for them and that younger generation, just like the generations that came before us were paving the way for us. And so hopefully just trying to continue to kind of make smaller that gap between the men and the women. And obviously in basketball, it's such a universal sport. But we were really trying, I think we are trying, especially our team this year, was kind of minimizing that gap between the two, and was making it okay for little boys to watch, women's basketball, was making it okay for little girls to want to play basketball at a young age. And so we were trying to pave the way and kind of set a new standard for, gender and our sport. And I mean, she was going to be able to do that, and her teammates were kind of that next generation that were going to take that on.
I love that. I love that. I always say I'm doing it for all the little girls, but I'm doing it for all the big girls too, you know, because truth be told, you never stop dreaming. And I call in this movement, and I'm changing the narrative in what I do, I call people kings and queens, because I believe inside of every one of us exists a king or a queen, right? And I did see where LeBron called you Queen Sabrina. You know, that must have been like, again, you kind of let things roll off your back. You're very humble, but that must have been a moment like, whoa, you know, LeBron's up here called me Queen Sabrina.
Yeah, no, that was really cool. I mean, it's been really cool to see the support that we've gotten from the NBA this year. I mean, and just like other men's athletes, and it's been really humbling and cool to see how our team has been able to attract the attention of those. And so just seeing all those NBA players tweeting at us, posting about the shoes we're getting or posting about the wins, and obviously being able to have that on TV and for them to watch has been awesome. But yeah, it's definitely always cool. We were together when that happened, so it was cool to be able to share that moment.
Okay, speaking of shoes, I've got to show you something here.
Wow, that's a good get for you. Those are hard to come by.
So this is the greatest story. Your AD at Oregon, I worked with him with the college football playoff. And I've spoken at Oregon. I've spoken at Oregon several times to the football team. And I actually almost met you a couple of years ago when I was there with Tiffany, your family, my friend, and but a football player wanted to meet with me afterwards, and so I didn't get to come meet you. I didn't get to come to your practice. But after the college football playoff, I said to your AD, I said, man, if you ever wink, have a chance, you know, have any extras, please let me know. And so he sent me an email and he said, I'm going to send you a package. He said, what size do you wear? And I said, a 7. Well, I didn't indicate, Sabrina, whether they were 7 mans or a 7 womans. And I got them and they were too big. But then a friend told me, they were like, Rachel, I mean, unless you're like, you know, Sabrina or an athlete playing in Oregon, I don't know that I would wear those shoes anyway, because they're all.
Yeah, that's so funny. Ari,
I'm sure you have a closet full, my friend.
What'd you say?
I said, I'm sure you have a closet full of something. These sneaks.
I do have a few pair of Jordans, but you're right. You don't want to wear them a lot. I'll bring them out on some special occasion, but that's really it. I really try and save them. So I guess it's not a bad thing that he got you a size too big.
I know, right? I'm like, if times get tough in the quarantine,
right? Yeah, if you really need to.
If I really need groceries, I mentioned those questions. Homes of Zillow. Since Sabrina got her master's in branding, i.e., we're just talking about the best kind of branding. What does her brand embody, and how does she intend to promote that going forward?
That's a great question. I think I've learned that this year more than ever, just because of being in this master's program. I've kind of realized the pros and cons that come to athletes being brands and kind of standing for something bigger than themselves. And so just realizing that I represent not only myself as a person, but my family, my school, anything that I really have a relationship with is what I stand for. And so realizing that I can't just go on the internet and post anything that I want, or I can't really stand for anything I want unless I'm 100% committed to that and will live and die by it. And so I think, you know, going through this year and kind of realizing that and seeing that all eyes are kind of on you and you stand for something bigger has helped me realizing where I want my brand to be, and then just being able to see like, oh, I think this worked, or, oh, I really believe in this. And so that's what I want my brand to be, has helped me in trying to figure out how my brand can relate to something bigger, like a bigger theme, just as like women in sports, or finding ways little girls could have the equal opportunity as boys do. And so just trying to tie in kind of that to my brand's identity.
One of the things we ask in I'm Changing the Narrative is, who are you away from the field, the court, the track meet, the pool? Who are you? What makes your heart beat faster? What were you born for, right? Like, what do you want your legacy to be? And I want to ask you that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of been hard for me to figure that out. And I think I was thinking I had more time to figure that out just with my relationship with Kobe, and I was just going to kind of be under his wing and figure that out. But I think now, kind of more than ever, I'm figuring out that the time's now to figure that out, and really just trying to be an impact in society and really change the way that, basketball is viewed. And I think that's something that is really important to me, just because growing up, I didn't have equal opportunities as my brothers had playing sports. And so I think that's something that I'm really drawn to and stand by. And so trying to use, my platform to create that change and hopefully create equality is something that, I really stand for.
I love that. And that resonates so deeply with me. I was the first female host on SiriusXM on their college channels. And if I ever got, ahead of my skis, or as my mom used to say, too big for my britches. Like if I was ever having a moment, where I wasn't thinking in my right mind, I would remember that moment. I would remember that of all the years of Sirius, right? And all the years of radio, that there had not been a woman, and that I was carrying that torch. And so for me, that matters. And I love that you want to have equality for women, for little girls, and having the same opportunities, the same pay, all of those things for little girls. That just warms my heart.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. So here's another question. This is from Frey11 on Instagram. If I had to ask her just one question for tomorrow, she asked, when you're going through some really tough times, what do you tell yourself to help get through that? And what is your thought process in overcoming that adversity?
That's also a good question. My whole kind of thing has been everything happens for a reason, and grow through what you go through. And so I think kind of holding on to those two sayings, I'm kind of trying to use adversity and challenges as another kind of level of competition. And so rising to that and not letting it dictate how I view myself, how I view those around me, how I kind of view the day. I try and take on those challenges and walk right into them, and then figure out ways that I could get over them. So obviously that's been hard, and it's something that I'm still working on. But kind of growing through that and then putting it behind you and then taking on the next challenge and figuring out different ways to get past it.
Is that what you would tell people right now that are struggling with the quarantine, or struggling with, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I got that question as well. I wanted to work it in from people. What would you tell people that are struggling right now?
I mean, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And obviously, I mean, I have it good. I feel blessed. I mean, I have a roof over my head and food, and there's people that, can end up homeless from this and can end up jobless. And so it's always hard to see, but at the end of the day, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And so I think growing through what you're going through in the moment is kind of the biggest key, and the biggest quote that I find resonates with me. Kind of finding that obstacle, finding whatever is burdening you, and kind of finding peace in that, and finding ways that you can get better and grow through that kind of time of adversity and uncertainty.
Is that what you would tell athletes right now? Because there's so many, and I want to just give a shout out for a moment. I just want to like hold space for every one of the athletes. You talk about what you were supposed to be doing today on this day, right? Like for every one of the athletes that got the rug pulled out from underneath them, is that the same thing that you would say to them? Yeah,
I mean, I think really finding purpose in that process kind of gave me this feeling of I gave everything I had to the season and really didn't leave anything behind. And so I think that kind of gives me peace. And I think that can kind of put into perspective to certain athletes. If you didn't wake up every day excited for living another day and having an opportunity to play the sport, it can be taken away from you at any moment. And so really just being appreciative of what you have, I mean, is a perfect example of really what just happened. I mean, we were making plans for the future and hopefully getting to a national championship, and we didn't know it was going to be taken away from us, within a couple hours. And so I think really just understanding that, there's beauty in the present moment and trying to just do everything you can to conquer that and not really get too ahead and looking into the future. And then you have nothing to regret at the end of the day.
I'm not going to ask you where it came from because I think that's maybe too easy of a question, and you've probably gotten it a lot. And I don't like to ask questions that other people have asked, like put my own spin on it. But when did you possibly know that your desire, your hustle, your talent was different than those around you? I know that might be a tough question for you to answer because you are humble, right? But like, was there a moment where you're like, crap, I'm good. Like I'm really good, or I can do this, or I have this in me.
Yeah. I mean, I still don't think I'm like that good and still don't think that I really deserve anything. I think it's always just been me versus me. And so it's never been me versus anyone else out on the court. It's always just been me trying to be the best version of myself, the best player. And so I think always competing against myself and, that kind of internal voice that's telling me to do more, be better, has always left me kind of wanting to do more and be more. And so I think probably that's why I'm the way I am. I mean, I still don't think I'm that great. I mean, there's so much more to do still.
Are you that kind of athlete that's good at everything you do? Like, are you a really good golfer? Are you a great swimmer? Are you good at everything you do? Or
no, I'm not great at golf, but I will.
I just snorted.
Because I do want to up my golf game.
Okay.
But I am good at all sports. Like I've growing up, I played football, baseball, volleyball. So I played them all. And so I'm super competitive. So I'll keep trying to get better until, I'll keep trying practicing until I can get better. But I haven't gotten there in golf yet. So I'm still working on that one.
Okay. I'm a golfer. So when I come back to the West Coast, and when this is all over with, we will go swing the clubs a little bit. An old coach friend of mine said, make that little white ball say yo. That was his.
All right.
Right? That was his. That was his saying about golf. So maybe we can do that. In wrapping up here, one of the things I always ask my guests on the way out is, as we pour into people on this Sunday for the last couple of minutes that we've had together, which has been awesome. What's something that you want people to be maybe mindful of this week? What's something you're thinking about in that betterment? You talked about it a couple of times throughout this interview that you want to bring up, right? Like, what are some things you would say to other people to be mindful of this week, and maybe that you're being mindful of?
I mean, there's always someone out there that has it worse than you. And so just being appreciative, and whether it's, thanking God or whoever it is that you thank, there's always people out there that have it worse. There's always scenarios that you wouldn't pray to ever be in. And so I think just being mindful of how blessed you really are to be in this position, how blessed you are to hopefully have a roof over your head and have a computer, have a phone to be distracted on, and not really being in the streets is something to be thankful for. And those that aren't in that position, there's also something to be thankful for with whatever you're going through. So just trying to be a light in someone's life. If someone needs help, if someone needs some words of encouragement, trying to provide that for them, but always trying to do better, not only for yourself, but those around you.
Sabrina, I will never curse technology again. I will never talk.
It's the best.
I will never talk bad about it again, because I am quarantined by myself with my dog. And I'm to the point of Tom Hanks in Castaway, where I'm about to name a volleyball. If not for.
No, technology has been my best friend these last few weeks.
Yeah. So you know what? I'll leave you with this, and I want to say this to you. And you've been your joy has been contagious to me, and it's made me laugh and it's made me smile today. I would say to people that fear is contagious, right? So like, you read something and a mother reads it, and then she's fearful all day, and it kind of pours into her kids, it pours into her home, like everything she does, every conversation she has. But you know what else, Sabrina? Joy is contagious, and peace is contagious, and love is contagious, and laughter is contagious. Those things are contagious as well. And so I love that you're on the same wavelength that I am. I'm not even reading it. I'm just going to do the best I can. I'm going to stay home. I'm going to use my platform, Purpose Passion platform. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to keep smiling, hold on to my joy. And that's what I'm going to focus on, being the best me I can and taking care of other people to the extent that I can. And that's what we can focus on.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And that's what I've been doing as well.
All right, Sabrina, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for this time with you today. And I cannot wait till we can tee it up and we can say this thing is over with and we got through it together. Thank you so much for pouring into everybody today.
Yes, thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you.